Hello everyone. I gave this video the title of Between Two Eclipses, May We Live in Interesting Time, or we do live in interesting times. And you probably know that this is the biggest Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times. And indeed, these two eclipses seem exceptionally potent. Potent for what exactly? Well, if you look at the world news, you will find that it is full of strife and conflicts, and also sometimes very funny little stories. Think of Elon Musk or think of Paul Pelosi's story. So there are interesting. There are really interesting times. Now let's take a look at a chart that I selected for you, just to introduce a couple of ideas. This is for November the 4th, and between the two eclipses, Mars turned retrograde. Now, if you watch my video on the solar eclipse of October 25th, you already know what a solar eclipse is good for, especially in karmic astrology, what happens to the luminaries and to us. And I will make a video on about the November 8th lunar eclipse, especially because it will signify the date of the midterm elections in America, which looks interesting again, just to use the same term I selected for the title. But this particular moment is quite fascinating because the sun is highlighting the south node. And what is the south node? In your own chart, it describes how you behave when you are being cornered or threatened in any way. What are your survival kit items that you can actually utilize in order to either survive or to win a debate or a clash, something like that. But it really signifies a lot more, because actually it is the common repository of our knowledge, we as a nation or as a group of people or as a family. And this space-time moment suggests that you should tap into this repository in order to survive. It's going to be a dark winter. Winter is coming, to use the phrase from the Game of Thrones. And it will be a bitter and dark winter for many, and it will be cold and bleak because the powers that be want us to suffer and want us to die as soon as possible. For the last 3,000 years, there was a power behind the screens, behind the actual power, very plutonic, very, very dark and very sinister. If you want to know what they are like, start reading Greek mythology, because that's exactly how they behave. Greek gods are stupid, they are horrible, they are nasty, they are vindictive, they are jealous. They are really even worse than human people, because simply humankind or humans, simply because they are eternal. So they don't need to be afraid of death and of extinction. So what they are doing is really horrible, and to me it was fascinating to see there's one nice notable exception among the male gods in Greek, and in this particular space-time moment he will play center role. But anyhow, so let's take a look at this particular configuration, which is not really a how shall I put it, a big configuration, because really what you have here is a finger of fate and a dissolved opposition, and then Mars plays a little role here that we are going to explain in a minute. If you take a look at the sun and the south node and the position of Venus and Mercury, you can see that Venus and Mercury actually puts these two into brackets, kind of. Mercury signifies understanding, learning, and self-expression, and Venus signifies, you know, the ability to love and create some kind of harmony and money. And she rules the North Node Uranus conjunction in Taurus, and this other side of the opposition signifies the fact that we need to change our destiny. Uranus is the planet of change and disruption. When you do forecasting, you perfectly know that you may think of 4 different things what a Uranus transit can bring, and the 5th will happen. And it does really 2 things. It triggers change, but before the actual change is happening, it usually disrupts everything. It destroys everything. It's the revolutionist who simply demolishes the structure of society because he doesn't want to live in it. He doesn't know what to provide instead. I mean, look at all of the revolutions. They never provided any solution. They were just vehicles of disruption. That's what Uranus's main function is. And in the end, yes, the world is changing. There's a new world for us to live in, but most of the time we don't like this new world. At least the ones like who are as old as me, and we still remember what the United States was 25 years ago. It was a wonderful, brilliant place. People weren't making each other racist and Nazis and whatever. They didn't label each other. It was a nice, free, beautiful place. Look what's happening now. And the same can be said about many, many Western countries. Anyhow, so this shows to us on our level that we need to change our destinies. And yes, Uranus will and is disrupting our well-being, our harmony, our security, our money. Well, that's another plan, of course, to make us very poor, because you want equality, make everyone poor, equally poor, and that's the true sense of being equal. That's the big plan. World Economic Forum, go to their website, read their propaganda, you will see what they are planning for us to become. So between the 2 eclipses, Mars turned retrograde, of course. I think it happened on the 27th. It was certain stationary during the eclipse, or almost stationary. Depends what you accept as stationary. And whenever Mars is turning retrograde, it gives us a moment to reflect on our inner strength or our will. Also, this Mars rules Chiron in Aries, so it effectively rules the karmic wounds inflicted by war. And Chiron is the apex of the finger of fate, or finger of God, or Yod. There are many ways to describe this very karmic configuration. And Ceres, which is one corner of the Yod, has also a very important role. First of all, Ceres is in Virgo. What does it tell us? What does it tell us? That we need to put our things in order. We need to prepare for our loved ones, for our family. We need to become nurturers on a very sensible, practical way. And we actually, so what I always say, okay, buy food, put it in your larder, put it in your, you may not be able to use refrigerators this winter because there may not be electricity, but then have canned food and things that keep well on shelves, and prepare, have candles, and have, well, if you can afford, have a generator, of course. So be prepared for this very dark winter that is coming, and winter is coming, as I said. Anyhow, Game of Thrones, of course. Anyhow, so Ceres plays double role in this particular space-time moment, because it is one corner of the Yod, and it also is the dissolution to the opposition. And then Mars makes sesquiquadrates to the fourfold conjunction, or quadruple conjunction, if I use the twin name for it. And it doesn't seem to close anything, because the semi-square story is not, it is too wide, it is not within orb. But if you see this very thin dotted line between Mars and Chiron, you can see that this is a quintile. You can actually calculate that this is a quintile ingeniousness. So actually Mars not just only rules Chiron, but also links to it with a quintile. So that shows that we may actually get some insight into this word, this third world war that I'm starting to call it. Mars in Gemini itself suggests that this is not just a war with weapons, with regular weapons and arms, but it's also a cultural and an ideological war. And this is precisely what you can see. It's ridiculous to me as an EU member that a non-EU member gets such a horrible attention from the EU, from the leaders of the EU. Think about it. The Ukraine, I'm sorry for the people. I'm always very sorry for any war victims. Unfortunately, there are many throughout the world. And why is this huge attention? What makes the West simply collectively go against Russia? And believe me, I don't like Russians. It's so funny because everyone thinks that I'm defending Russians. No, I'm not. I'm Hungarian. And believe me, I mean, if you look at our history, they crushed 2 of our revolutions and they occupied us for 45 years. So why shall I love them? There's no need to love them at all. But I can see what's happening. I'm not stupid. And I can see how the West is trying, especially the United States, is trying to destroy this huge nation state, with huge unlimited resources, which they always coveted and they always try to occupy. Read what John Bolton said a couple of days ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, about what he thinks Americans should do with Russia. Read it, and it's not me, it's him, with his own mouth, what he said. Anyhow, so this Mars in Gemini, and it's going to be in Gemini for a long time. And actually, Mars turns stationary on January 12th, I believe, and will turn direct only on January 14th or something like that. So we will have a retrograde Mars up till almost the middle of January, 2.5 months. Which means that we will have quite some time to reflect and find inner resources, inner energy, but at the same time, the smoke screen and gaslighting will continue, unfortunately. Okay, let's take a look at what happened. Before we go further, sorry, I wanted to show you this. So here's Mars retrograde, and also it's out of bounds. It's very important for us that it's out of bounds here in karmic astrology, because whenever you have an out of bounds planet, it means that it is leaving the zodiacal bed. And what is the zodiacal bed? It is the celestial stage on which the planetary gods are playing out or acting out their stories, human stories, of course. And whenever a planet is leaving the edges of the zodiac and steps into the void, into the universal void, it becomes more, let's say, less human and more unpredictable. If you have such a planet that is out of bounds, it usually denotes that you accumulated it through extreme pain, and it's very difficult to delineate. And whenever it happens in a space-time moment, which is important in the mundane sense, and of course Mars is continuing to be out of bounds and will be out of bounds also on November 8th during the eclipse. Actually, it will grow more out of bounds because it's going to be, I believe, 24 degrees 12 minutes. Now it's just 24 minutes 1. So it will travel further into the void, into the darkness of the universal energies. And it simply means that you won't be able to exercise human will in the normal form, in the normal way of what you usually are accustomed to. So here's world politics, and this is what happened just after or around the solar eclipse, and we are not yet at the lunar eclipse, so I'm just really interested. First of all, Elon Musk purchased Twitter, and he tweeted, "The bird is free," and it was really funny and very interesting to watch the total meltdown that liberals frenzied themselves into over this takeover. It's really ridiculous. I mean, but of course he fired everyone in the management, and he promised to reinstate all banned Twitter users. But it didn't happen, and it won't happen soon, because now he's just announced yesterday maybe that it's not going to happen automatically. Each case needs to be looked at separately. So of course he probably, I don't know what happened. I don't want to think of what happened. Anyhow, another interesting little piece of news. Liz Truss, ex-English Prime Minister's iPhone got hacked. And among other things, she texted to State Secretary Anthony Blinken, after just moments after, or minutes after, or seconds after, really, the Nord Stream pipeline got blown up. It's done. Stupid. She's really stupid. I mean, which means, of course, that the British did it as a together with their American friends. This is really laughable. Anyhow, what else? The Russians have stopped grain exports. Now, this is important because half of the population in Africa will starve, and so that's a serious matter. It's not laughable at all. North and South Korea started to shoot each other with rockets. The government of Kosovo started to again insist on a license change of all Serbian licenses need to be replaced by Albanians. And of course, Serbia is up in arms, and of course the Serbs there too. Just an interesting hint: if Kosovo could be taken from the Serbs without any referendum, why can't the Russians take the Crimea or those territories in Donbass? I'm just asking. Okay, so who set the precedent? Did Russia set the precedent or the West? Of course, the West did. And now they are, of course, saying, oh, this cannot happen. Well, interesting. Anyhow, we do live in interesting times. So that's another thing. That also the Serb army declared that they are going to shoot down any spy drone. And of course, it happened. The first incident happened yesterday on November the 2nd. I'm recording this on November the 3rd. There was also a few European countries announced that actually arms, weapons contingent that were, or weapons deliveries that were meant for Ukraine ended up in the hands of terrorists. Interesting, right? That's all we needed, really, to make the world even more dangerous. And also, according to the CIA, Iran is ready to attack Saudi Arabia. So there's going to be a third world war, not just between the USA and Russia in the Ukraine, but also one in the Middle East and another one in the southern portions of Europe. Brilliant. Congratulations. And then you have Paul Pelosi's really bizarre beating. And until we see footage of what actually happened, I'm just asking questions. Okay, allegedly there are 32 cameras in the Pelosi house. How could the intruder go in there? There's constant surveillance. Why were both men in their underwear? And there are other questions which I'm not actually asking now, but it's really interesting, and we do live in interesting times. Now here's the transcendental objects for the space-time moment. The sun has Circe, the sorcerer, and two very bright and important stars, Alpha Crux, which is a crux, which is the sun, Alpha star of the Southern Cross, and Alpha Corona Borealis, which is a northern hemisphere star. So they are nowhere near each other. I actually did make a drawing here for you. This is a straight line. It should not be a straight line. It should be a curved line, because Alpha and Acrux, oh, sorry. Why am I doing this always? Sorry. Okay, yes. Sorry, I'm trying to put it away. Anyhow, so this should not be a straight line, but I did put a straight line because here see the ecliptic, and so these are at right angle if we do a straight line. Of course, this is a sphere, so this should be curved. Here's the triple conjunction, with a full-foot conjunction. You may see the sun. So these are on the same astrological degree, Scorpio 12 degrees approximately. And here this is a celestial equator view, and here I put an ecliptic view for you to see that if we imagine a curve here, then you will see that this is the same degree. So two stars that have the same zodiacal degree can be very, very different portions of the sky. Now, why are these two stars important? Acrux describes the actual realization of the crust of matter, that I'm coming down here to the earth plane and I'm accepting my human body and the hardships and beauties and pleasures of human existence. And the alpha star phase is Acrux. You will never be able to see it unless you are on the southern hemisphere. You won't see it from the States or from Europe, unfortunately. It's a brilliant star. It's a beautiful constellation. Someone sent me a postcard, and I long to see it, but there's no way I travel so far. Astro travel maybe. And Alpha Corona Borealis, has an interesting story because it is the crown, the wedding crown of Dionysus's bride, Ariadne. And you may remember Ariadne is the princess who helps Theseus kill her half brother, the Minotaur. And Theseus, of course, the hero, who could not have done this deed without her, puts Ariadne on a deserted island and leaves her there to die. This island belongs to Dionysus, and a couple of days later, this island is preparing for the comeback of the god. It starts to grow grapes, and wine is flowing from the brooks, and so it's a quite interesting scene. And then Dionysus, who is the only real exemption of the terrible lot of Greek gods, because they are vain and stupid and vengeful and jealous, but I mean, read Greek stories, you will know what your elite is like. They are exactly like this. But anyhow, so Dionysus falls in love with Ariadne and marries her, and their marriage is the most beautiful, long-lasting story in Greek history, in Greek mythology. Theirs is a truly happy marriage, and they lead a very simple life and raise their children in a bliss. So it's quite interesting. So that's Alpha symbolizes this type of happiness, feminine happiness. And then Mercury has Aphrodite and Amor, two love asteroids, of course, only at that space-time moment, because a day later Mercury will be out of all of these slower moving asteroids. Venus is on Zuben-Elganumi, which is Alpha Libra. The two scales of Libra, the celestial scales or celestial balance, one is on the northern and the other one on the southern side of the celestial equator. And Zuben-Elganumi, according to Bernard Brady, denotes positive social reform. Well, let's hope for that. Another south node, you have Odin, the chief god of the Norse mythology. On Mars, you have Nestor. The Nestorians were a bunch of true Christians who were, of course, terminated by the Roman Christian Catholics, the Judeo-Christians. Anyone who tried to return to the old basic ideas of Jesus Christ was always annihilated, always, throughout the last 2,000-year history. And if you have two bright stars, Alnitak and Alheka. Alnitak is on the belt of Orion. So and which means that the belt stars are on the celestial equator, signifying eternal balance, the balance of the gods. And Alheka is Zeta Corvus. Do I have a? No, I don't have a. Anyhow, I thought I had a picture of Corvus, and the whole constellation of Corvus is linked to magic, white and black magic, and the usage of magic. And it's fascinating to see that Alheka, this particular star was named Alheka, and in Egyptian mythology, in Egyptian thought really, or philosophy, the Egyptians thought that the human soul had 7 folds, 7 portions, and one was Heka, which was the magical ability that was there present in every human being. It's interesting that they named it like this. And on the North Node, you see Albion, and this conjunction will be there in the lunar eclipse chart as well. Albion in William Blake's mythology is someone like the first man, someone the first entity, so to speak, someone like Adam Kadmon. And Albion cuts himself into 4 to create the 4 aspects of humanity. And in karmic astrology, when Albion is prominent, it denotes a potential for the creation of something new out of the old. And actually, the acknowledgement of something new can only come from something old, and by the disruption of something old. That's what's happening. And so that is linked to our destiny choices at the moment. On Uranus, you have Imhotep, the polymath, and on Chiron, you have Hel, the underworld goddess of, again, Norse mythology. Aldramin, which is Alpha Kephos, the Kephos, Andromeda, Cassiopeia, Perseus story, one of the main protagonists there. The poor king who suffers from his very vain wife, and almost sacrificed his daughter because of her stupid behavior. And then Ceres has 5 transcendental objects. Here you have Dionysus, so Dionysus appeared for us, and then Osiris, again an underworld god, and Orcus, which is the underworld chief underworld god of the Etruscans. And Orcus denotes he's the punisher of broken oaths and also the keeper of hidden treasures. And then Teros was a centaur who was hunting for bears, but instead of killing them, he took them back to his cave and tried to teach them proper ways. So it's an interesting little story. And then Aphidas, who was invited to a wedding and got very, very drunk and proceeded to rape the women. So it's a very nasty centaur. So that's what it is. We are in between 2 eclipses. We are in a space-time moment, which suggests that we live in interesting times. Again, this is one of the biggest Chinese curses. And we are going to look at the lunar eclipse as well. Some of these placements will continue then, but I just wanted you to take a good look at our potentials. And the clear message is, go back to the roots, learn from your grandmothers and great grandmothers and fathers stories. Go back there. You will tap into this reservoir of ancient knowledge, because you will badly need it this winter, because winter is coming and it's going to be dark and gloomy. Thank you for listening. Bye.